Good morning. It's very early on a Sunday morning and I didn't post a video last week because I was doing a lovely brunch, hosting a lovely brunch and giving a talk on stress and nutrition, and that's what I'm going to do for you guys now because it's really important. And I'm going to do it in two parts because it's quite long. So this part today, we're going to look at what stress does to your body, why it's so bad. And then next week, we'll look at how we can make lifestyle and diet changes to not be affected by it. Because unfortunately, stress can be really damaging to our body. So I really am interested in stress because, number one, I love resting. I honestly love resting. It's one of my favourite things to do, which I think is really baffling for a lot of people my age, but I honestly really love it. And number two, stress is universal. Like, you've probably been stressed at some point this week. You just would have been. You might not have totally realised it, but you might have sort of like been a bit like, oh no, this tube carriage is really, really busy, or I'm running a bit late. That's all kind of like types of stress. So we all feel stress. I'm going to look at also now what happens in your body when you're stressed. So this is called the stress response, and there's 3 phases to it. Number 1 is the alarm phase, number 2 is the resistance phase, and number 3 is the exhaustion phase. So number 1, alarm, is our fight or flight response. Now you might have heard of fight or flight response. That gets talked about quite a lot in terms of our sort of ancestors. Basically, when they were faced with a life threatening situation, their bodies learnt to react in this way to save their lives. The problem is, we still encounter a lot of stress every day, but we don't need to react in the same way that they did by either running away or fighting. So in the alarm phase, what happens is that your stress hormones your adrenal glands secrete your stress hormones into your system. This includes adrenaline, and adrenaline is what gives you kind of like that boost and that sort of like feeling of being really alert and sort of like being able to do things quicker. You've got adrenaline in your system, your blood sugar rises to be able to sort of like feed your body extra that it needs, because when you're working out, your body needs more blood sugar to just keep going. Blood is diverted away from parts of your body that don't need it in fight or flight, crucially the digestive system, and goes to your brain, your heart, and your muscles. Obviously your brain so you can think, your heart so it can pump and feed the rest of your body, and your muscles so you can fight or flight. So that's sort of like in brief the alarm phase. Then you go on to the resistance phase. Resistance phase is there to sort of like step in if your alarm phase resources disappear. So your initial burst of stress hormones are secreted in the alarm phase. Once they've kind of like run out, resistance steps in. And for our ancestors, this was so they could continue to fight or continue to run away. For us, it kind of looks like more stress hormones are secreted, this time cortisol, and a protein in your body is turned into glucose. So cortisol encourages parts of your body, your muscle, to be changed back from muscle to glucose to feed your body. So essentially, when we're eating carbohydrates, we eat it and your body changes that into glucose, and it uses what it needs. What it doesn't need in the moment in the bloodstream is turned into glycogen. So in the resistance phase, this glycogen is turned back into glucose into the bloodstream. So that can be damaging if it's long term, unfortunately. We can see muscle loss, and also the fat that you get around your middle, that's stress related, because your body changes all this protein, all this muscle into fat, or basically into sugar. But the thing is, we don't run away, we don't fight anymore. In stressful situations, like when we're in a car late for work, or when we're stuck in a tube, or when you're like sitting at your desk dealing with a stressful boss, you have to stay there. You can't just get out and run away. So this is the problem. All these stress hormones, all the blood sugar has nowhere to go, so it just like goes back on as fat. The last phase of the stress response is exhaustion. Now we want to avoid exhaustion as much as possible, because exhaustion is really hard to come back from. You might know someone that has sort of like, it could have been termed as sort of like they've overworked or burnt out. I know that was really common at a place where I used to work. And this is like so hard to come back from. It often takes months, if not years, of just like having to not work and just rest and recoup your body, because it's basically defined as the total collapse of a body system or an organ. Imagine what you've done to your body to make a system fail. This is so bad. So we just really need to like be more switched on to how we feel and to combat it. The point is, we can't stop stress. We can't stop stressful factors in our lives. What we can do is stop our body from going into the stress response. And in doing that, we'll stop the secretion of stress hormones, and we can stop our bodies from changing the proteins into sugar, which then goes into fat. And we can generally just be much healthier and much happier. So next week, we're going to look at what we can do to stop the stress response from happening.